Okay, so the big announcement, which I've been whispering in some social media channels for a short while, is that because Joomla has finally come out, Joomla Stack Exchange has finally come out of its beta status. It's actually a fully fledged community now, which will entitle it to all the bells and whistles eventually. So we're just at the starting phase of spreading our wings. So there will be an opportunity to do some redesign and some prettying up and personalization of what the community looks like, so that it actually looks more than just a black and white stock standard community that the earlier sites have. And as of about a week ago, there was the announcement that, or 2 weeks ago, that there was an announcement that we're going to have a complete reset of the Joomla Stack Exchange moderator team. So at the moment, it's just me and Peter from the Netherlands, I believe he's from. And we have agreed that it's time for a reset. We are both going to be temporarily dethroned, and there will be an election which I assume will include, I will be a candidate, and I assume he will be returning as a candidate, but we will be receiving all new candidates. Hopefully we have a selection to pick from. We'll need at least 3 people to fill the seats. If there's 4, then we'll have an election, but ideally we'll be electing 3 people. And for the last week, up to about probably 4 hours from now, there was a window of time where you could suggest questions that you ask the candidates when they raise their hand. You have to self-nominate if you want to be a candidate to be a leader in the community. So there was a call for a collection of questions, and there's been absolutely 0 questions supplied. Fortunately, there was a collection of questions that mostly I populated 3-4 years ago when I raised my hand to become a candidate, and I never got a chance to answer those questions because there was no election. I was the only person who raised their hand to become a moderator. So maybe they'll just scrape those and throw them in, unless there's a flurry of last-minute questions provided in the next 3 or 4 hours. So regardless of if there's any fresh questions for the candidates, we will have an election. If you have, I forget how many points, like 150 rep points or something like that, you'll be able to vote for the candidates. If you want to be a candidate, you'll not only have to self-nominate, but it will be expected that you write a short little something about yourself, about why you think you'd be a good moderator and why people should vote for you and how much you love Joomla, yada, yada, yada. It's all in Joomla Stack Exchange Meta. So it's the Meta branch is a subset of the community. It's a Q&A where you talk about Joomla Stack Exchange. The questions and answers aren't about solving problems in Joomla. It's more about solving problems and speaking about the community itself. So that's a section of the site that most people don't know exists. Which is a little bit of a shame. Sometimes we've got important things to announce or ways we want to call for community support or community feedback. We ask a question and virtually nobody answers. So we could use a little bit more attendance there. But if anyone has any questions about the upcoming election or what it takes to be a moderator, or if they want to know if they want somebody else to validate whether they should be a moderator, you can ask me now or on Meta, on Joomla Stack Exchange Meta. Yeah, so after that, after we get through the nomination phase, there'll be the question answering phase, so the nominates explain themselves, who they are. Then there will be a vote if we have enough candidates, and then just like that, they will tally up the votes, and we will see who the new moderator team is.
How many points did you need to vote?
I think it's like 150.
Oh shit.
And you've got time, so hurry up and answer some questions, or ask some questions yourself. And it's not as stingy as Stack Overflow, so I know myself that if I see something that looks moderately like a good question that other people might want to know, I upvote that question, even if it's not absolute solid gold like perfection. It doesn't have to be. Joomla's at a different place than Stack Overflow is. Yeah, so points aren't that hard, and just takes time. If specifically for Nathan, I mean, if you're making discoveries about, if you are learning how to use J filters in combination with something else, and you were stuck for a moment and then you fixed it, well, that can be a singular Q&A that you can offer to the community and potentially earn for the question and the answer. So really what we want to get people doing is getting in the habit of sharing their discoveries, because a lot of people were timid. They go, oh, I don't know if I'm smart enough to ask a good question, or they say, oh, I don't know if I'm smart enough to give a good answer. But if you don't put it out there, it never, it never gets a chance to grow. So you have to seed this place with your thoughts. And if you're actively using Joomla week in, week out, if you're maintaining one or more sites, you're going to get stuck doing something. Something is going to slow you down. And if you crack it yourself, you should most definitely post that on there so that the next person can not waste the same amount of time or spend the same amount of time that you did, and vice versa. So if we all start contributing, then there will be things to search for and things to get you closer. So it just doesn't make sense to stay silent. And more topically in the news, of course, is GPT chat. So if you aren't searching there or asking questions there when you're encountering your Joomla problems, you might be losing time. So ask it. It might get it dead wrong. It might not have any idea, but it might get you close. It might inspire you.
It's been getting me to about 95% of what I want it to do. And typically the last 5% is localized variables that need to be put in to tie it in. So yeah, but it's amazing how it takes what it's learned and can then give you a much clearer answer, certainly than the forums, more than likely than the documentation.
Yeah, and it's explaining itself as well. Yeah.
Does Stack Exchange have a GPT policy?
Yes, they're all covered by the umbrella policy that you may not answer a question using the content from any AI source. So whether it's the new Bing or the ChatGPT, and the reason for that is because it's too often flawed. And the reason they want to deter people from doing that is because people who don't understand the code that they're supplying, it's farcical.
That's the caveat. I could go and get the answer from ChatGPT to fill in the blanks on what I'm trying to answer, and then rework it to make sure that it's giving the accurate answer.
Yeah, well, in that case, then you become the subject matter expert that we can trust. But if you were just blindly copy pasting, throwing it online, and it would ruin everything. It would waste people's time. So yes, you can do that.
I did get ChatGPT to write a profile on me yesterday, and clearly it doesn't have enough data sources. So
how obsessive!
Added a child, said that I'm a runner, and says that,
philosophically, a runner.
Experience in banking and finance. So yeah, I knew that it wasn't pulling accurate information. So,
remember the good old days when we just Googled ourselves?
Yeah, in the past, aren't they? So.
Well, and I have to be honest, at work, we are currently using ChatGPT for all manner of things, whether it's after we write a code base, we ask it to write documentation for us using the code base. There are some clever things, and we should all be experimenting with it, because even if it takes you the same amount of time to do the same work with ChatGPT as it would to do it manually, at least you're learning that skill. Yep. And it's just another assistive technology that we shouldn't be afraid of. It's just like when electric calculators were invented. We didn't have to write stuff out from scratch anymore. So we just need to embrace it as a new tool. As far as coding is concerned, I ran a trial where I took a question off Stack Overflow a recent one. It was a recursive task, a very simple recursive task. Fed it to ChatGPT. It got it wrong like 3 times in a row. But it was a meaningful conversation where I told it where it got it wrong, and it tried to switch it and adjust it, and eventually it broke. But it was still an interesting endeavor. And there was a person who answered the question before I was finished researching it. And I noticed that the answer that they didn't explain, that was just a code dump, was identical to the ChatGPT output. And that user subsequently got banned about a day later for breaching the policy.
Just fair enough. And that's the thing, that the best answers on Stack Exchange are the ones that actually go into that
Yeah.
proper methodology of what you're trying to do and go from there. That's what my kids have just started year 7, and the messaging from the school is, Chat GPT's an assistive tool, not something that we're going to ban, but we can tell when they've just gone and dumped something straight from Chat GPT.
Yeah.
But it's now a case. I saw something the other day that the reason kids get maths homework and maths problems to solve is not to learn how to do the math, it's to learn how to solve problems, so then they can go and do the next note. So
Exactly.
So
Yeah. So does anybody have any questions about Joomla Stack Exchange or anything that's come up that didn't make sense to them? This is my chance. I haven't been around for 2 or 3 of these meetups, so I don't know if there's anything going on. Is everybody happy? Not using it as much as they should?
Who are you pointing at?
I needed more fingers.
I was just looking at my last answer, and I'm like, yeah, it was a bloody U theme template, just because the guy didn't answer. You're like, don't shoot it to U theme template to me. And I was like, I work with bloody U theme all the time, mate. I know their error messages. So no, you're right. I'll get back on there. I'll give it another go.
Yeah, you really should. I mean, if you're using it every day, you're exactly the person we want to be chiming in. And even if you can only inch them that far forward, or ask a good, like, put a comment underneath that helps to improve the question, it's still progress. We just need progress.
Sure. Certainly better than the forums. I can't cope with web dongles 5 million posts over there. So.
Yeah, well, you're preaching to the choir there. I don't look at the forums at all.
Dived in there once and got smacked down by him, and I was out of there.
All right, what else is on the menu, Patrick?
So I put a chat, or the thing in the chat about Mattermost. So those that have previously been involved in the Joomla community, and this is probably directly for you, Mick, because I think you're the only one that used to use Glip.
Oh, yeah.
So Glip has been replaced.
That was the Ring Central.
Yeah, Ring Central has been replaced, and they've switched to Mattermost, which is another open source project. And so everybody needs to migrate across to Mattermost if you're going to participate in Joomla teams and conversations, and then try to open it up a bit more so it's a bit more public and goes forward from there. So
I never got an invitation.
So, well, yeah, so if you go to the link that I put in the chat, that'll take you to the Joomla doc that I wrote yesterday to get on top of how you go about using it, because all of the other documentation, all the other mentions of it so far have basically just sent you straight to Mattermost with no instructions of what you need to do. And so if you need to have a Joomla identity profile, which will set you up with a Joomla identity profile, which is also your Joomla volunteer profile. So if you've already got a Joomla volunteer profile, then you just need to log in with that, and then that will let you sign up, log in, and participate in conversation with what looks to be town square at the moment. There's 510 Joomla people around the world in the conversation at the moment. My job in the next 6 months is to go and convert all the ones that aren't volunteers in the project into being active volunteers in the project where possible. There's a large volume of tire kickers at the moment, and there's about to be another flood of a few hundred because there's all the Google Summer of Code students will be coming on to that. So yeah. As always, if anybody wants a volunteer position in Joomla, reach out. I'm coming back into the fray, and yeah, there's lots of things that have been static while I've been away and need to stop being static. And a few people are about to get taps on the shoulders to say, really, this has been going on for 3 years. Can you shift it along a little bit? Go from there. So, yeah.
Are you doing the tapping?
I'm tapping some of the department coordinators at the moment to make sure that they start doing the tapping that they need to do as the board to get it going. If anyone's super keen on a job, there's Crystal is the new president-elect as of last week. So those that know of Crystal, you probably know more of Nick, her husband, who is Nick from Akiba. So there's a very clear delineation that they're putting out there to not be, or to have a very much a separation of powers there and separation of involvement.
That's got to be some interesting dinner conversation, I would have thought. Hey, Nick, I saw your post today slamming the core development team. Can you just ease up, mate?
Pass the salt. Yeah. How about news in the Joomla community in terms of Joomla days? Did the American one go already? Does anybody know?
No, the American ones, I tried to get SD on earlier, but she's, tell her, you want to jump. No. It's midnight in Chicago, so she's not going to come on. April 22 to 24, Joomla Day USA.
And are there any other ones on the horizon that we should?
If you go to put some links in, so that's that one, and then
I know the J Day USA one is an in-person one this year, but are they also doing something?
they're doing a hybrid, so there'll be
Yeah.
parts of that. Yeah. So.
Cool.
Oh,
Hey, Nick, is match a PHP 8 thing only?
Is it 7.4? I'm trying to think of when it came about. If it's like 7.3 or something. But if you look,
yeah, it looks like it's sort of 8.0, which is fine, but in terms of the maybe do a 7.4 and an 8.0 overall.
yeah, it's an 8. It's an 8.
Can I ask, is there any updates on how J4 and e-commerce are tracking? Something I bring up every time. Just the fact that we've got developers who are really, really struggling to make migrations and provide stable upgrades for J4. So any success with e-commerce migrations? Anyone?
Nathan Stewart and I have been trying to get Russell to get his Benchmark 4 presentation ready to go. And
he said he's nearly ready.
He's nearly ready. Matthew can probably tell me more. I know Matthew's done a J4 site with Russell's assistance with Benchmark 4.
Yeah.
And that, when he was showing me the other day, is quite clean. Brett and Stuart are well aware of the fun and games with
J2 Store. Yeah.
J2 Store, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the biggest conversation I have with so many developers outside of Joomla is that, you know, We just don't have in Joomla a great e-commerce solution, certainly not for J4. And
Right.
it's,
So I think that
The site's currently a J3 site that Russell helped me build. However, I do know that he's converted a number of websites that he has done from J3. He's migrated them across to J4 with that use Virtumart, and he hasn't come across any issues today.
because I'd assume mostly it's not necessarily the core upgrade that they're all struggling with. It's all their plugins from third parties, you know, that can't make that shift or have abandoned ship even, you know. So, you know, I feel for them. It's a real sort of heart, you know, sadness that they're not making progress. But it's like, where are we going with it, you know? Because we're all sitting ducks.
Yeah, the site that was built was utilising, it's been built with Utheme, Page Builder, and integrated Virtumart within that, using extensions produced to enable Virtumart to communicate with Utheme. It works quite well. It's we haven't really had many issues, but there's not a lot of huge demands, I wouldn't have thought, on the system itself with this particular shop. So
I've had a bit of a look at DJ Catalog, which runs on Joomla 4 Fine.
Yeah.
It looks like I like DJ extension stuff that they do generally, but it looks like a pretty powerful kind of system.
it's worked well.
You've used it?
We use that with this site in particular, so it's worked well. I know Russell did have to do some still.
No. DJ Catalog's a different shopping cart.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood that, because there's an extension that I think they did, or is that Joomla Pro?
No, they offer a
Utheme
integration for DJ Catalog so that you can build your DJ Catalog pages through Utheme. But DJ Catalog is its own sort of shopping cart. You can use it without Utheme, but it runs on Joomla 4. Brett, I think, is your problem, Brett, your J2 store is your main
J2
cart?
store, yeah. So we've got, you know, well, we've lost clients actually as a result.
Yeah, right.
So, you know,
yeah, it's difficult if
they probably went to WordPress, WooCommerce, in all honesty.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the issues, you know, and it's a bit of an unfair advantage that WordPress have, is that, you know, WooCommerce is owned by Automatic, you know, who pretty much fund WordPress.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a pretty smart idea in 2015 to buy the most popular shopping cart and then make it the only shopping cart available for the platform, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there even another shopping cart on WordPress? I don't know that there is.
I don't.
Not necessarily.
You never hear of it, do you?
If it is,
even WooCommerce suffers from the same structural faults that everything else in
With
WooCommerce.
the plugins.
Oh, of course it does. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah.
And that's the thing. I don't know of many. I don't know many sites where they're after e-commerce and they're aware of the capabilities of e-commerce, where they're shifting from Joomla to WooCommerce. It's only where they've engaged a developer that's a different agency or something like
Perspective on it. Yeah.
that is a WooCommerce WordPress shop, and then they're getting what they paid for. So,
Yeah, but it might be, Brett, that you have to look at alternatives, I guess, which doesn't help in terms of migration and upgrades. But yeah, if you're going to keep doing them.
I mean, I work with someone that is across WordPress and Joomla, and a huge advocate of Joomla, but he just said when it comes to e-commerce, hands down, you know, WooCommerce is just so much easier. You can actually build it, and you'll always find a plugin, you know, and It's just something, you know, I've been beating this drum for quite some time, but it's getting to the point that all the error messages for PHP 8 and all the error messages for upgrading to Joomla 4 are, you know, presenting something to the client that we really don't need. Now, I hide half those warnings now, but that's not really a solution.
No. So I think I saw that Matthew showed me the other week that going forward, Joomla 4 with Virtumart 4 may be the most solid solution there. And it all comes down to how you engineer it. So one of the reasons that I've tended to pick J2 Store is to make the content part of the
And use custom fields and make it all flow really well. Yeah.
A lot of that functionality has come into the latest version of Virtumart and makes that functionality reappear there. And you know, I went off Virtumart when they were slow to get through, and that caused a number of problems with what I was doing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And I guess also like Virtumart years ago, I mean, it just wasn't schmick. Like WooCommerce has great, you know, a great out of the box look and feel.
Yeah.
And everything we've ever had in Joomla.
So it's more that they've
All
bought
the themes that override them. Yeah.
The bulk, and this is the bulk of the headaches I have with WordPress, is that someone has gone and got a cheap developer who's gone to Envato or something like that and downloaded a Divi theme or a bakery theme or something like that, have gotten stuck with the page builder that then doesn't get updated because they haven't continued the license for that.
Yeah.
Yep, ad nauseum.
Updating the content. And then, I mean, this happens with Joomla sites as well. So
Yeah.
I think I've just had a lot of a lower tier, lower value tier customer that means that I've got a range of sites that fit this billing. Getting to that next level at the moment, proving to be not so much a challenge. There's a flow of stuff coming in.
Yeah, well, there are some things you can't do. Like, you know, I'm looking at doing a site for someone at the moment that I'm going to use WordPress and WooCommerce,
Sure.
primarily because it's a independent record store in the Melbourne CBD. They have a stock management system called Vend, which guess what, has an out-of-the-box integration with WooCommerce, which means on their Windows desktop stock management application, they can check a box to say sell product online. It will sync the record covers, all the deets up to the website. It's all kind of there. You know, it costs like $5,000 to build something like that, you know, and it'd have to run the other way for a start. So
that's
it's horses for courses for me though. Like if I'm doing a shop that's doesn't have those requirements, then I'll still use Joomla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where there's a degree of maturity in the market that Joomla's, I'd like to say Joomla's working on it. I don't see enough evidence of it actually happening, but the conversations are starting to happen to say, okay, well, you have a system that you want to work with that's got a very solid API. Joomla 4's now got a solid API. Let's do the work and make the two of them talk together. And then suddenly Joomla becomes part of the vocabulary when you're talking plugins and everything can link into whichever system's there. But
yeah,
a lot of it's been the absence of an API as well. So WordPress has had a public API of some form for ages, as has WooCommerce, which has made it very easy for people like this stock management company to integrate with it, whereas it's just not been a part of Joomla until J4. So,
I mean, Phil Walton hasn't sent me the latest version of the stats that he's following, but in the last quarter of last year, there was just a noticeable uptick in Joomla was regaining ground. For every new website that was created, or every 10 new websites that were created, one of them was WordPress and one of them was Joomla. That might be too smaller an example, but we were proportionally putting out the same number of new sites in whatever the metric was, even though Joomla had a 2% share and WordPress still had a 46% share. So if that rate continues, then our market penetration continues to increase, which will be exciting. But yeah,
I actually think the future's bright, but e-commerce is still a little bit of a sore point.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah,
Brett,
it's
Brett,
still,
my experience with watching Russell build a site and Patrick build a site for me with two different e-commerce packages, there were more issues associated with J2 Store than there were with Virtumart.
Yeah.
I have no background in building e-commerce, and my ability to have a better understanding of what was going on was won me over with Virtumart.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that you do separate the products from the Joomla content. I think that was probably is a good thing. The custom fields work really well.
Yeah.
And for me, the integration of, because I am a big Utheme user, the integration with the extension of Joomla Pro extension, which is Virtumart UI Kit, worked extremely well with grabbing that dynamic content from Virtumart. So there was never an issue of grabbing the content that we needed it to grab
is
from.
that, do you think that's exclusive to using Utheme though? Because not all of us use Utheme, like the Helix.
No, I don't think so. Like, I've got no experience with other builders or whether it's the core Joomla framework, but
Yeah.
the fact that I think, you know, we can utilize the dynamic content quite easily and grabbing the custom fields within the Joomla core quite easily. I don't think that there would be an issue with it with other builders or straight out of the box Joomla.
It worked fine with standard templating, I think.
Yeah. For me, yeah, Utheme's always been a go-to for me because I like what they do and how they keep pushing stuff out and updating everything. But yeah, it just seemed to work a lot better. I know I pushed Russell quite a bit at times to say I really don't like how that line looks or the color of something. And there was still some elements that he had to go into the core code to try and locate and do some overriding. But ultimately he was able to accomplish it. So
Pretty minimal. Yeah.
yeah, so there's still work I think they have to do, Virtumart, in order to make it easy for you to make core possible core changes. But the things that I was asking about were purely about design aesthetics, not functionality.
And some of the issues, and I'm not sure how many wine products are on the other site.
So again,
How many SKUs do you have on the wine site? What products?
What volume of products?
let me just go to the
SKUs.
So the other side that Matt was talking about that I helped you with, which we did in J2.
yeah, it's only 38.
Yeah, so on the wine site, it's 38 SKUs for 38 products.
Yeah.
On the other site that I worked with Matt on, it was 12 products, but 248 variations. So each variation had a SKU, and then that then causes a cascading effect. I don't want to know sort of what some of the product numbers are on some ones I know that Stuart and Britt have been working on lately. There's 10,000 in the propeller one or something, isn't there? I think. So yeah.
How many, Stuart?
Easy.
Stuart? To Stuart? How many SKUs for Propeller Warehouse? No, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was just fixing a bug. There's at least 10,000, possibly more. So, you know, I've got one client who is running a
an e-commerce solution where they've got a constantly updating product list of about 10,000 plus lines. So they get 300 or 400 lines every month additional.
Sure, are these Joomla or WordPress or?
No, they're currently neither. But one of them is going to be a Zoho Commerce. But interesting, you were talking about the API to API earlier. The standard Joomla API is not full enough to actually do very much with in terms of e-commerce.
No.
It's a long way off. You know, any customization or any integration I've had to build myself, even looking at the API again today, to see if I could make some headway with it.
There's only 3 or 4 components that I'm aware of that have got a solid API.
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at, was that it's the shopping cart that needs the API, not Joomla itself. You know, and
Transactional side, yeah, rather than the actual shop front. Yeah.
The 3 or 4 that I'm aware of are written by the 3 or 4 people that contributed to the core API code. So they haven't got to the point, and this is another area I've got to go and hunt volunteers down for. So where there's docs.joomla.org, last year they also released, without much fanfare and without much consultation, manual.joomla.org. They're now looking at converting, there's a project that's just started to convert docs.joomla.org into a new format, so it's not with the rather problematic wiki anymore. It'll use Docusaurus as well, which is a markdown language that means that you can contribute code and then it'll be pulled in on GitHub to write the wikis or write the documentation. So, but again, yeah, everything's only as good as the amount of time people are putting into it. Joomla, I don't think still at the moment has any plans to pay people to do some of the stuff to get it up to speed, which long term may be the only real way to get it on top of it. And we'll see what happens, but yeah.
that's when you have kind of genuine open source versus corporate funded open source. It's kind of
That's right.
Yeah.
So, makes it very hard along the way.
I guess with the fact that we're receiving the warnings in the Joomla, dashboard about how long Joomla's lifespan is, I'm certainly not receiving transparency on how those e-commerce developers are progressing.
Right.
There's radio silence, like there's just zero communication from them at all.
Yeah, I haven't sat down and had the conversation with people that I know should be the ones driving it. But it's certainly feedback that I'm going to take back in the next couple of weeks to say, okay, well, what's needed at the operational level to get all of these developers to actually get their stuff organized, and then
and where are the stumbling blocks? Because it's not like we want them to go and to fall and not continue. We want them to continue. That's why we're all waiting.
the ecosystem they have grown out of, didn't really serve them as well as it could have to streamline that communication process. And it needs to be fixed because Joomla 4.3 is coming out in a couple of weeks. And then after that becomes the stable release through the Joomla 5, which is the next part of the roadmap. And that's where all these communication items need to be resolved to make sure that Joomla 5 has a very smooth transition into adoption straight away. And it should end up being that it's a click of the button, because whatever else is added to 5 is not backwards compatible breaking items.
Yeah.
But is your host forcing you to upgrade to PHP 8 or something?
No, but I'm not able to upgrade any of the J2. Certainly the sites that have J2, I'm not able to upgrade them to 8 PHP8 successfully, I get 500 server errors and, you know.
I wouldn't have thought it was a desperate thing that you need to do just yet, though.
Well, I really just
mean,
wanted to
I
upgrade
know
the
Patrick.
PHP8.
I know Patrick's a big fan of it, but I'm running like, well, the site I demoed tonight's running on PHP8. I think I've got one other because basically because a bunch of components will say, oh yeah, we've done this for PHP8 and 8.1, and then you go and test it and you go and edit a record and you save and oh, there's errors. So I don't actually think many components are actually ready for prime time when it comes to PHP8. So
I mean, I don't know. I'm just following, you know, as a layperson, I'm just following the alert messages.
I'm honestly still working on the basis of 7.4 being my stable version.
Yeah, but I have a Kiva installed, and of course, I get every swear word about, you know, time is end, the world is coming to an end.
Your clients
the end
seeing
is
those
nigh.
messages? Or are your clients seeing those messages?
You'll be detonated if you don't upgrade soon.
Yeah, they need to tone it down just a fraction quietly. But are your clients seeing those messages or?
Well, the odd one probably was, and so now I've, you know,
hide them as much as possible.
The system messages, but at the same time, it's like I don't really. That's not a solution, right?
Well, it is a solution in the sense that you know
it doesn't alarm them.
I mean, Keeper's doing that because Nick's an anal retentive and he wants everyone on 8.5, even though it hasn't been made yet.
The risk versus the reward is sort of where you got to balance it out. I mean, my server's still running 5.6 with a couple of 2.5 sites on it. So
Ventura will still run 5.6. I've got a couple on it. I just upgraded one the other day and I managed to get up to 7.0 and I went, woohoo, look at that baby. She's fine.
And at the moment, there's still enough things. You know, so I've got a site that I finished working on this afternoon that the previous developer had edited core files, which is typically the great no-no. And it turned out that I could get around one part of it by replacing. So I basically duplicated the search plugin for core content and just added a few bits and pieces to make it a copy of the core content, but one that wouldn't get upgraded. And then the only other thing that it needed was to put the category ID for the session back into the search parameter. And so there's, to upgrade it next time, it's copy the file that has 6 lines or put the 6 lines of code back into the controller and off we go. And that site had been stuck from getting Joomla updates for the last 18 months because they couldn't reliably do that. Update. But the PHP 8 is reportedly faster, reportedly cleaner, but you've got to have all of the parts to the puzzle there to make the most of it and know that all of your Joomla 3 or your Joomla 4 components and extensions are PHP 8 compatible before you, because otherwise that's
certainly best practice, but I wouldn't have thought it's minimum requirements just yet.
No. And the older your site is, the more likely it is that you've still got something that's residual and hasn't been updated for 5 or 6 years.
Well, there you go. There's another shopping cart that has though. The one I did the other day had Hiker Shop on it. I was able to get it up to 7.2. And then I had a look at the Hiker Shop release notes. I went, no, we need to, my client's going to have to subscribe for a year to get a license so we can upgrade this. So I emailed him off and he was happy to do that. He's the kind of tight ass that doesn't want to do it every year, but we'll get him up to, and it'll run on Joomla 4, allegedly.
Yeah.
I think it's worth airing out the exact errors that you're failing on. I think the most common one that people are getting with PHP 8 is that it's really simple bugs, like if you try to call trim on a null value. Like there's all these native functions in PHP that they tightened up what you can do and the arguments that are fed in. And so they're all actually quite trivial to fix. It's just you've got to know where to do it. And like Patrick said, how to do it so it doesn't get wiped out in the next upgrade.
And have it, yeah.
So That's worth posting on Joomla Stack Exchange, if I'm being honest, Patrick.
Well, it's also actually more worth posting in GitHub and writing a pull request to fix it.
Yeah.
So I had one that was exactly like that, where if you were trying to load, I think I only spotted it in the PHP error log, but effectively, if you were trying to load a custom field that didn't have a value, then it was causing something related to the fact that it was null, didn't get checked, and so it was still trying to do something with the array, and then it failed. So the PR I put in was 3 lines that basically put an error check in, and so
Thank you.
It's common for everybody, so it's worth fixing and sharing and getting the word out.
You'll see on the chat that the second link I posted after JDay USA is linked to the community events calendar, which at the moment we are plastered all over. I've set up the recurring user group announcement so that we're always on the game. There's two events this weekend in Germany, and I'm not sure where the Joomla camp is running, but it looks to be in German.
Is there going to be a Joomla Day in Australia again anytime?
It will be any time.
Yeah, 2032.
2032.
Optimistic, mate.
There'll be something at some point. We've still chasing up Linux Australia for the rest of the
Chicken egg kind of thing. It's still definitely planned.
Form a committee and then get some people to replace us, and then
Got some paperwork to do, have you, boys?
Well, we need to get the paperwork back. That's true.
Yes, the paperwork's done. We just don't know whether they've accepted it. So so.
Then we can get some cash, and then we can do a Joomla Day.
But if anyone is interested in running the conference, or the conference, we can up in the coming month. Cool.
It will happen, Brett. It will.
No, just curious.
Maybe not, perhaps not in our lifetime, but it will happen.
Are you planning on leaving soon?
No. No, it'll happen in ours, don't worry.
Yeah.
I didn't spend all that time researching bars for no reason.
Yeah, we need to do more of that. So.
Yeah, the conference venue stuff. So there's a good reason to get back into it, Patrick.
True. Not for the conference itself, more for the
For the research, yeah.
We'll post out when we're doing that so that anyone else can come and join us. Any capacity and more of the variety of quality there. So
Yeah.
Stuart's in. He's got his hand up.
Yeah. All right, cool. We're coming up 2 hours, so yes, I hope. Thanks, Nathan. That's seems people are going to be building, filtering new theme sites in coming weeks. I think it attracted a few people tonight for that purpose. If you've got enough points, we can send out more details on where to vote for that. And then next month we're trying to get if we can get Russell, it'll be Russell. I've also been speaking to the guy that used to be the sales manager for MySQL in Australia with Oracle. So yeah, he's available. He's just finished at Oracle. So we'll see what happens there. But we've also got, I think I sent out the link in the meetup announcement regarding other topics. So if anyone either wants to find out something, let us know, or wants to present something, we're not going to turn you away. Okay. Cool. Stop the recording there. You can